Hey YouTubers, well I got another video for you today. So this one's kind of a little different than what you're used to seeing, all the reviews and stuff. This one here is a little bit personal for me, and so I wanted to bring you guys an update with me and my gout. If you've been following my channel for, several years, you guys have seen that I've struggled with, gout and my weight and all this kind of stuff. I've had gout since I was probably about 18 is when I really first noticing some gout attacks and stuff. And if you're not familiar with gout, it's pretty much just like inflammation in the joints. A lot of people say, you get it in your big toe. Well, for me, I don't. I get it everywhere but my big toe. You get it in my hands, my feet, places on my ears, tophi on my ears, big white spots. You guys see the good side, when I make a video, you see me up moving around and active, but you don't see the negative side of things where I might not make a video for 2 or 3 weeks, maybe even a month sometimes, because sometimes I'm just not able, can't get out of the bed, can't use my hands. They'll just be swollen up, or I got gout in my thumb or my wrist, or most of the time I get it in the top part of my foot. And so it's kicked my ass for the last 25 years. I tried pretty much all the gout drugs that's on the market: probenecid, colchicine, Uloric. I mean, that's your major ones. I've tried them all, and to be honest with you, they just didn't work for me. And I even went the homeopathic route when I was in my 20s. I worked as a district manager for a general nutrition center, so I had access to pretty much any of the supplements in-house. And I hear a lot of people say, oh, just take tart cherry pills and drink cherry juice and all this. I've tried that, and for some people, if you've got gout, it might work for you. But for me, gout is hereditary. I've got it on both sides of my family. My brothers have it. And somebody, I even had a doctor one time, he told me, he said, well, you've got it because of your weight and you're obese. And literally, I about ripped the doctor's head off there in the office. I got into it with him, and I was like, it sure is funny. My brother's in the damn army, and he's in great shape, and he's got gout. So you explain that to me. He was just a dumbass trying to blame it on, my weight, instead of getting down to the cause of it. And, I know that I do need to work on my weight, and I'm sure that it would help, but that's not the cause of gout. It's high uric acid level is from purines in certain foods. And so your trigger might be different than my trigger. And so, some people, it might be shrimp. Somebody, it might be hamburger. So my dad always swore it was tomatoes for him. My brother swears it's hamburgers for him. For me, I don't really know what it is, because hell, I can eat steak, never bothers me. But that one time I eat a steak, bam. Or that one time I eat shrimp, it hits me, but I've ate shrimp 100 other times and I'm good. So don't really know what my trigger is. And so I found that if I get dehydrated, then I obviously instantly get gout. And so I have drank over a gallon of water every day for the last 20 something years. But anyways, I know there's a lot to talk about over this stuff, and I'll try to remain on topic. But anyways, like I said, I fought with all the different medicines, and a few years back, a medicine was out that people were talking about that was pretty much like a miracle drug, and it was Krystexxa. And so didn't really know nothing about it, and to be honest with you, I started looking into it after a few years after it had been out, and I've been seeing good things. I joined a lot of the groups on Facebook for Krystexxa, and I just heard a lot of people praising the drug and saying it was pretty much a miracle drug and this, that, and the other. And I thought, well, I'll try to get on it. Well, the first time I tried to get on it, my insurance screwed up. I had to wait another year to get on it. And so that was this past October. I tried to get it, and anyways, I thought, well, I don't want to get on it in October and then start it at the end of the year and then have a big copay for the new year rolls around. So I thought, well, I'll just wait till after January to get on it. So when I started in January trying to get it for the new year, so I wouldn't have just the one copay, I had United Healthcare. And so United Healthcare told me that they've come out with some new rules. And let's say you've already been seeing a rheumatologist. It doesn't matter if you've already seen him a dozen times or if you've seen him once. If you've seen a rheumatologist, it does not matter. If you've got United Healthcare, they have made me for 2026 have to go back and get a referral from my primary care physician. Even if I've been seeing the rheumatologist already, they made me go back and get a referral from my primary care to see a rheumatologist I've already been seeing. That makes no damn sense. And United Healthcare, they're making it harder and harder for people to get what they need and the drugs that they need. And like I've said, in the past, this is one reason why somebody got rid of their president of United Healthcare for pulling this kind of bullshit, making it hard for people to get their drugs. And so yeah, if you got United Healthcare, you're gonna have to jump through some hoops. And so anyways, that's unfortunate. But anyways, I ended up fighting with a primary care, and they were having to fight with United Healthcare to get that referral put in and this, that, and the other. And so I got my referral. All right, so I just wanted to give you guys a rundown. If you're thinking about doing Krystexxa and you're nervous about it, I'm going to tell you my journey. It might be different than somebody else's, but for me and mine, this is how that it worked out for me. When I went in to see my rheumatologist, they told me to go ahead and start taking the methotrexate and the folic acid. And so I would take one folic acid pill a day. Then I would take methotrexate once a week, and I would take 6 pills at a time. And then I would do that 2 to 3 weeks, I think 3 weeks prior to my Krystexxa, my first Krystexxa infusion. Now, when I went in for my first Krystexxa infusion, my gout uric acid levels was 10.3. So it was high, and I was feeling pretty bad. And my blood pressure was 182 over 100. And yeah, it was really high. It's just because I was hurting, I was aggravated, didn't even want to be there. And I'm sure going to the doctor's office, I don't like going to the doctor's office, that made it high. And plus we was running a little bit late that day, and we weren't used to being at the hospital and trying to find a parking space. And it's just a lot of bullshit to try to creep up on you at one time. And so, I'll be honest, I was a little hot that day. That first day, I just wasn't wanting to be there. And so anyways, my blood pressure was really high. And so I went in, like I said, what they'll do is, they'll check your uric acid level, and they'll get you blood work and all that kind of stuff. And you'll have to sit there. And, when you go walking in, like I said, it'll be an open room, and it'll have like dividers between you and the next person next to you. And there'll be other people in there getting, iron infusions, and multiple sclerosis people getting their medicine, and cancer patients in there getting their medicine. And they'll pretty much have people divided off, and, they'll have a nurse's station in the middle where they can monitor you. And so what they did for me is they checked my blood work, and then when they come back, they were like, well, we're going to go ahead and give you the steroids. And so they went ahead and gave me an IV of steroids, and it took 30 minutes to an hour depending on how many you need, and your doctor will let them know how much steroids that you'll get. And so you sit there for 30 minutes to an hour for that. And then if your uric acid level is at the right level, then they'll let you have the Krystexxa. And then the Krystexxa, it takes about 2 hours. Whenever you get the Krystexxa, it's cold. It feels cold. I think it comes out of the refrigerator, and so I can feel it coming in through my vein there, and it has just like a chilling effect. It feels actually pretty nice. The steroids, I'll be honest, the steroids, I've had many steroids through the years, the pills and the shots, and now the IVs. And the steroids can make you feel hot, they'll make you feel moody, they'll raise your blood pressure, they'll raise your blood sugar, they'll make you feel good. And they can also help get rid of the gout really quick, depending on how bad it is. But like I said, they'll check your blood, give you the steroids, you'll get hot. So I suggest, if you go in there, bring you a fan just in case you get hot. A lot of times when they go to stick me, I'll get hot and I'll put the fan on me so it don't make me sick. And then when they go to give me the prednisone, it makes me hot, so I'll put the fan on me so I don't get too hot. And then by the time they put the Cristex in me, I'm needing a blanket because, like I said, it feels cold when it comes through your body. So you sit there for about 2 hours with the Cristexa, and you just gotta sit there and wait. And you can read a book or look on your phone or do whatever you gotta do just to pass the time. And then after you get done with the Cristexa, then they sit there and make you wait for about 30 minutes, or at least that's the protocol at Erlanger where I'm at. They make you sit there for about 30 minutes just to see that you don't have some sort of allergic reaction to the medicine. They don't want you to leave and get in a car wreck or any of that kind of crap. So anyways, my first infusion was a little over 2 weeks ago. And so I'll be honest, when I left out of there that day, after my very first infusion, I was hyper. God, that steroids really hyped me up. When I left out of there, I was hungry. Oh my God, I was so hungry. I think it was about probably 1 or 1:30 by the time we got out of there. And my belly's used to eating around 11:30, 12 o'clock. And so by the time we got out of there, my girlfriend went with me, and we were ready to go eat. And so I noticed when we got to the restaurant that whenever I'd go to eat my food, I was shaking like really bad, like I had Parkinson's disease bad. From I thought it was from the steroids. It might have been from the Cristexa, but most likely it was probably from the steroids making me a little shaky. And so for about 2 days I shook pretty bad. And every time I'd notice it a lot when I would go to eat or try to use my hands to do anything or talk on the phone, my hands would shake, and then my voice would kind of waver as well. So that lasted for about 2 days, and I felt okay, felt like I had plenty of energy. But when day 3 hit, my gosh, I just was total fatigue, super tired. And then I got a little bit better on day 4. And then by day 5, I just felt like death. Literally just felt bad. Just felt tired. Just not even sleepy, but just fatigued. And didn't want to really get out of the bed. And so it went on for, just a few days. And then I thought I was getting a little bit better and it was coming out of it. And then week 2 hit. And I was like, oh my gosh. I don't know if I made the right decision or not by taking this Cristexa. I was like, I don't know if I've effed up because I feel like hell. Like literally, it felt like the worst hangover you've ever had combined with the flu. Like literally couldn't get my ass up out of the bed. Like I literally got up one day 3 times just to pee. Couldn't even make it to the kitchen to get anything to drink or nothing. I literally went from the bathroom back to the bed 3 different times, and I had to use a cane to do it with. I was still having some gout attacks, and in fact, that was some of the worst gout attacks I've had. Not because it was so painful, but because it attacked 7 joints at one time. Yes, if you've ever had gout, it usually attacks 1 joint, but for me, most of the time it hit 1 or 2, maybe 3. But I've never had it in 7 joints like I did on week 2 after my first Cristexa infusion. And so by the time I went in for my second infusion, which was this past Friday, today is Sunday, I was like, my gosh, I hope this is not going to be like this from now on, because I've made a bad decision. And so I was over here Googling it, how long does it take this Cristexa to work? Is it common for it to be in 7 joints? And when I Googled, hey, is it common for it to be in 7 joints? It said it was. It said it could get in a bunch of different joints at the same time because that, those uric acid crystals are breaking apart and they're just trying to move around your body. And so that's why it's jumping and getting in all these different joints. So I'm over here just like aching really bad. And so I went in for my second Crestexa infusion, and I had gout that morning in my left knee, and it was on the inside part, and I couldn't even hardly bend my knee. And I drove us there, and we got out, and by the time I got from the car to the front door, I was just exhausted. I could barely walk, and it was too embarrassing to use a cane, so of course, I'd hop. Anyways, I made it to the door, and I told my girlfriend, I said, I'm really tempted to get one of those wheelchairs over there and have you wheel me up. She's like, you can make it to the elevator right there. And then once you get to the elevator, it's just right there. So I made it to the elevator, got up to the room and everything, got back there and got checked in and everything. And I'm sitting there just aching. Laid back in the lazy boy recliner that they got, and they checked my uric acid level. And my uric acid level the first time that I went in for my Crestexa infusion was 10.3. And when I went in for my second infusion, it had dropped to a 1.8. And I was like, ugh. All right, sorry, I had to compose myself there. I get a little misty-eyed. Yeah, it kind of tore me up when, you went in your first time and you're at a 10.3, and the next time you're at a 1.8. And I was like, holy shit, I'm, getting better. And so it was just overwhelming too. So I get a little emotional in there because, shit, I've had gout for so long. Like I said, I've had it since I was 18, and now I'm 46. And this stuff has disabled me for so long to where, I can't use my hands, can't use my feet. And from one day to the next, I don't know if I can walk, You never know from one day when you roll out of the bed if you can walk or use your hand. You never know. And so, yeah, it was pretty emotional for me when she told me that. I tried not to cry in front of her, but anyways, it was very emotional. And so I, was just really shocked because, that was my last straw. Because like I said, I've tried, all the different drugs and the colchicine and stuff, and it just makes me sick to my stomach. You try to tell the doctors, this shit is poison. And I know some of you guys are going to take it and do fine with it. But I mean, me and my girlfriend was watching a crime show one night. And one of the ways that this woman killed her husband was with colchicine. And people don't realize it. It's just drugs. I mean, it's an old drug that's been around for a long time. I mean, even as far back as like Benjamin Franklin. I mean, he used to take this stuff. And so it's nothing new. It's a very, very old drug, but it's very poisonous and toxic. And so, I've told doctors for years, this shit makes me shit my brains out. It just makes me so sick to my stomach. And so I was just happy finally that, the Crestexa is bringing my uric acid level down. And so, to be honest, from the first infusion to the second, all I could think about was what they had told me. They told me at Erlanger Hospital, they said, well, when you come back for your second infusion, we're going to test your uric acid level. And if your uric acid is higher than a 6, we can't give you the Crestexa because you're not dropping fast enough, and your body's building antibodies and fighting it off, and it's not letting it work. And so we can't give it to you if you're higher than 6. So for the first 2 weeks, I'm over here suffering. I feel like shit. And then, you're over here stressed out thinking, oh, my God, is my body going to be, good enough to have a lower enough uric acid level to be able to take the Crestexa? And so when I got that, number of 1.8 on my uric acid level, like I said, that's why I was so emotional. And I was like, yes. And so this is just like a new lease on life because you've tried everything else and nothing's worked. And so now it's something is finally working. Anyways, I got my second infusion and I left out of there. I was super, super hyper. I was talking 90 miles to nothing. And by day 2, well, I went over to my, my in-laws' house and and talked their ear off for 2 hours, and then went off to my brother-in-law's house and talked his ear off for an hour, and then come home and talked to my girlfriend for hours, and then talked to my cousin for hours, talked to my brother, called my mother, called everybody on the phone because I was just rah, 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 rah. Couldn't quit talking because I was so hyper. And then we had actually got up and went to the flea market at 7 o'clock in the morning. Now, granted, the day before, I couldn't walk. I had the gout in my left knee. Got my infusion, left. The next morning, got up at 7 o'clock, went to the flea market, and then called everybody and talked to everybody. Finally, we come back home, and that was yesterday. And we come back home, and about 3 o'clock, I was just like, whoa, I have pushed myself too hard. I've got to slow down. And man, I come home and I fell out in the bed, and I took like a nice nap. I slept from about 3 to 8 o'clock last night, and then got up and I was still hyper and still talked to my cousin on the phone, who's my best friend, for probably well over an hour. And, I don't ever do this. I'm not a phone talker. I'm not a texter, But anyways, I was very hyper. Last night after I got up from my nap, my girlfriend usually, massage my feet, or rub my hand or something. If I've got gout or something, she'll try to rub around it and ease some of the tension on it. And so I told her, I said, my shoulders are sore. And so she rubbed my shoulders for just a second, because I was fixing to run in the kitchen and cook us something to eat, since we had slept through dinner. And so anyways, I let her rub my shoulders for a minute, and then she said, well, I'm gonna rub your feet. And I said, nah, it's all right. I'll be all right. I'm fixing to go in here and cook. So she was like, well, here, just let me rub them for a minute. So she started rubbing my feet, and I promise, for the last 5 years that we've been together, the tops of my feet, the very top of them, has hurt every day. It has caused me pain every single day, to where I have to wear not a wide shoe, not even an extra wide shoe, like an extra wide, and I had to go an extra long shoe just to help it with the width. I'm wearing like a 15 4E shoe, and it gives me a little bit extra room in there, so it doesn't hurt my feet and compress it too much. And so anyways, she started rubbing on my feet, and I was like, wow, that's the first time I haven't noticed pain in my feet in probably 10 or 15 years. And I didn't even realize that I was pain free in my feet till she started rubbing on them, because I'm just used to pain all the time. And I don't take pain medicine. I'm not no druggie. I never have been. Don't like feeling like that. But she rubbed my feet, and it was just really shocking. Just from my second Crestaxa infusion just 2 days earlier, it has really just knocked the gout out of my feet and out of my hands, and it even it's even got it out of my knee where I was hurting, just in a couple days. And so I felt amazing yesterday. I mean, that's the best I have felt in probably 10 years. It was just amazing to have one day of peace without hurting. Now, I woke up this morning after she rubbed my feet last night, and today's I guess the third day since I had my second infusion, and I can tell that the prednisone is worn off. I'm not nearly as hyper as I was yesterday, and so I can tell that's wearing off. And I got a little bit sore this morning. I could feel it, and not on top of having the gout, I've got really bad heel spurs on both feet, and coming out the back of my heel, and also going down, protruding down. So I've got like a bone coming down from the bottom of the heel, and then one going out the back on both feet. This morning when I woke up, it was a little sore. The tops of my foot is a little sore, but I'm not complaining. I mean, it wasn't gout, and it didn't hurt like gout. And I felt probably about 95% better than what I felt over the last 10 years. Now yesterday I felt like 100 yesterday. Now that might have been a false reading because you know the steroids make you feel better than you are. But today I feel a lot better. I say okay, but I feel better than what I felt probably in the past 10 years. And so, yeah, I'm really excited about the Crustexa. For me, there was a lot of questions, and to be honest with you, you can find pretty much any information about it just by Googling it or looking on, the Facebook support groups and things like that. So if you got questions, comment down below if it's something I can help you with, and tell you my reactions to certain things and how it affected me, then that's fine. But everybody's going to be different. I can only give you how my journey has been. But one thing that I will tell you that will piss you off is this. When I went to see my doctor, I asked him, I said, so when I go in for Crustexa, how long, do I have to do this for? Because I've been hearing contradicting stories. And he said, well, you'll have to go and come every 2 weeks for 6 months to a year. I said, okay, but how do I know, is it going to be 6 months or is it going to be a year? Because I want to know if I'm going to have to, driving, almost an hour down the road and sit here every other week, for 3.5 hours. I want to know if is it going to be 6 months or do I need to kind of put it in my head it's going to be a year? And he said, well, to be honest with you, he said, it's not really how many treatments you need, it's how many your insurance will pay for. So, and he said that, I was just like, you mother, and it wasn't mad at him, I was mad at the insurance company because they're all a bunch of crooks. And I don't care which company you got, they're all a bunch of effing crooks. And like I said a while ago, that's why the head of United Healthcare is went, because they deserve that, denying people their coverage. And I think it was the day after he went, I think 25,000 or 250,000 claims went through. So people need to start fighting against these healthcare companies, and because they're just making it harder and harder for you to get coverage. And so I still don't really know how many treatments I'm going to have to go for. I don't know if it's going to be 6 months. I don't know if it's going to be a year, because we were sitting here talking about it today over lunch, me and my girlfriend. If you go in and, they're going to check your blood work every time. Like I said, my blood work was 10.3 the first time, and then this time it was 1.8. And they said by the third time I go in there that it's going to be at 0. And so, if your uric acid's is 0, we were talking back and forth. We were like, over a 6-month period, if your uric acid level is still down, why would you have to keep coming back if you start taking a maintenance type drug like colchicine or Uloric or something like that? Why would you continue to go for a year? And so we don't know. We really don't understand if the uric acid level is that low, why would you continue to go? Is that your uric acid level going to slowly start creeping up? Because, one misconception people think is you get Crustexa and then you don't have gout no more for the rest of your life. That's not true. The Crustexa is really just to get it under control and just annihilate it. And then you need to take something to maintain it and keep it under control. As far as trying to understand why you would need to go for a year versus 6 months, if you're doing good at 6 months, I just don't understand why you would continue to go if you're taking drugs to keep it low. I don't know. It's just confusing to me. If there's somebody out there that understands that, let me know in the comments. We can't fathom why you would want to continue going for that long. Is it because the drug companies want to get more money out of you to get paid? Is it the doctors want to get more money out of you to get paid? I don't know. You'll never probably get an honest answer out of a doctor or an insurance company. So if there's anybody out there that wants to give their thoughts on it, put it in the comments. I'd love to read what your thoughts are on that. Like I said, just 3 days ago, did my second Crystexxa infusion. I feel wonderful, and now I'm starting to feel a little achy, but it's manageable. Yeah, I would take the way that I feel now and be completely fine with it. I could deal with a few aches and pains, but they say it's going to continue to get better, and so I look forward to it. But if you're wondering, would I do it all over again? Yeah, I would do it over again, just because that one day yesterday was amazing. And literally, when you hurt every day for so long, you never feel any comfort. When you get one day, it's just like, wow, it's amazing. All right, sorry, get a little emotional again. I have to pause myself there. I sure as hell don't want to cry on camera and seem like a big old baby, because I'm feeling good right now. But I just wanted to say it was definitely worth it so far. If I continue to feel like this every day, then yeah, it would definitely be worth it. And one thing I do want to clear up, my girlfriend behind the camera there reminded me, she was like, well, you need to let people know that the medicine, you don't just take it before your first infusion. You take it continually. So like I said, I want to reiterate, I take the folic acid every day, and then once a week on the same day and at the same time, I take the methotrexate, and you take 6 of those at one time. The folic acid is pretty much just to help you with the side effects of like sores in the mouth or hair loss, or you can Google that. And the methotrexate is just like an immune suppressant, so you don't build antibodies against that Crystexxa. And so it just pretty much helps Crystexxa work better in your body. That's basically what it does. And you guys can get online and read about all this, Google it, tell you the same thing. And then, like I said, my doctor wanted me to, take some colchicine as well, but I've discontinued taking the colchicine. Like I said, it made me so sick to my stomach the other day. I know this is kind of gross, but gosh, I was sitting here at the desk, and I had no warning signs. I was just like, man, I have got to go. And before I could even go get to the bathroom, which is just one door over, I ain't gonna lie, I crapped all over the wall, crapped all over the toilet before I could even get set down. And I know that's gross, and that don't never happen to me. And gosh, I was totally embarrassed. But I don't give a shit. I'll tell you guys, I'm one of these guys. I think it's funny. I thought it was gross, but it was just like, wow, I can't believe I'm 46 and I just crapped all over the wall, crapped the toilet, and I just feel like death. And literally, it's bad when you got gout in all 7 joints and you're trying to rush to get to the toilet. But yeah, it hit me all at once, and I was just like, I'm done. I'm not taking this colchicine poison shit no more, ever. And they can put me on something else, but for me, I am personally not ever taking colchicine. My brother takes it, and I've been telling him for years, better watch taking that colchicine, stuff. That stuff is poison. And he's like, well, I'm gonna continue taking it and stuff. It seems to help me. That's the only way you're gonna get that uric acid level down. And so, anyways, so he had been taking it for years, and I guess one of his doctors told him that in order for that colchicine to work, you just take one, and then later you take another one, and then once you get diarrhea, then you slow down on it. That's how that he was taking his. And I was been telling him, I'm like, Mark, you're gonna have to quit taking it. It's gonna make you sick. That stuff is poison. And I said, it can't be good for you. And so anyways, it was crazy, because after I got my infusion, I talked to my brother, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and now he's gonna have to have a liver scan because of the damage that some of I believe the colchicine has caused. And so that sucks. Hopefully it's nothing major. Hopefully they catch it in time, but yeah, that would be bad, just to have liver problems over taking this mess. And again, my journey might not be yours. You might do fine on this stuff, but for me, I'm not taking it. Very, very impressed with the Crystexxa, the way that it's working. I look forward to, my third infusion. I want to see what my uric acid level is, and truthfully, I can't wait to see what I feel like in 6 months. I just can't fathom in my brain what I will feel like in 6 months or a year, depending on how many of these I need to go to. But anyways, I just wanted to report to you. So far, so good. If you get the Crustex infusion, just hang with it, and it's nothing to be afraid of. I probably put it more in my head and psych myself up than what I needed to. Like I said, literally, you walk into a room, sit there, they check your blood, they give you some steroids, they give you a bag of, Crustexa, and you just sit there 3.5, 4 hours, and that's it. Now, I'll be honest, those first 2 weeks are probably going to kick your ass, but just keep going. It'll get better, hopefully, for you. I know it did for me. So, anyways, just hang in there, and, I'll try to give you guys an update here in a couple weeks when I get that next, my third infusion, and I'll give you guys an update then and let you know. But for now, everything's going good. And if you're considering taking the Crustexa, go ahead and get on board, because it looks good so far. Now, I cannot tell you what my long-term side effects will be, or if there will be any. I think everybody's different. Now, I will say, when I got on the Facebook Crustexa groups, I was asking people about Crustexa, and one of the first guys that commented said, I died in there when I got my infusion. I died, and they had to give me an EpiPen, and I guess an EpiPen or something like that, and bring him back twice. I was just like, wow. But everybody else was just like, wow, it's an amazing drug. It's been life-changing, and everybody else had amazing things to say about it, all but just that one guy. And so, I guess that's probably why my blood pressure was a little high that first time when I went in, because you never know what to expect. And so they did tell me that, if I did have an allergic reaction to it, that they would give me Benadryl. So I don't know why they give him epinephrine. He might have been allergic to it. I'm allergic to Benadryl, so they told me that they would probably give me Claritin if I had an allergic reaction. That's what they told me that they would probably give me, is since I was allergic to Benadryl, is the Claritin. So I'm going to wrap this video up, guys, and like I said, if you're interested in the Crustexa, check it out. And I'm impressed so far, but like I said, don't know long term. We'll have to, see how that goes, and I'll keep you guys updated. And as you know, I'll tell you the good, the bad, the ugly, the nasty. I'm not ashamed to tell anybody that I shit all over the toilet and all the way down the wall. I don't care. I just want people to be comfortable and know what they're getting themselves into. That way, you don't have to worry about it. And anyways, I hope that'll earn your subscription, and like my channel, and check out some of my other content. I'm just as honest in my other product reviews as I am, as anything else. I'll tell it like it is, and I might tell too much sometimes, like I did today. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and if you're interested in knowing more about this journey, I'll just pop in and throw a video up, here in a couple weeks when I go in for my next my third infusion. So, and I appreciate y'all hanging out with me, and talk to you guys later. See ya.